Hello everybody and welcome to this week's old school RuneScape live stream Q&A thing. But first of all, I'm joined by Mod Sween rather than the rest of the team, who will be answering the rest of your questions because there's some important things that we'd like to cover beforehand. So once we've got through this segment, I'll be joined by Mods G, Squid and Zuko. But before then, it's just me and Sween. We're going to go over some pretty important topics in relation to an announcement we made earlier this week, as well as some tough questions. And I don't like answering them, so I told Sween that he had to be the punching bag to come along and do all of my dirty work. So thank you for that, Sween. I really appreciate it. Before you have to answer some horrible questions, how are you doing today?
So I was wondering if you were going to ask me how I was, or whether you were going to go straight into it. So I do appreciate the light intro. I'm good. I'm really good. Had a banging headache earlier. Went for a lie down, couldn't sleep. So then I cleaned my flat instead, and I feel better for it. So it's the kind of nice state of mind.
Do you know what that is? That's your caffeine.
I've got another call to jump onto. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say that the headache was probably your caffeine come down after your binge session over the last 2 days, mate.
Probably. I just had my last can, so from now on I'm going to go clean.
Oh, well, you say you've got another call to join in, so I won't try and keep you for too long.
No, yeah, that's cool. I thought it's been a while since I've been on the stream, and like you said, you need a punching bag. So I thought for my next call, I'm going to go and get punched.
Nice. Let's get that positivity and bring it all the way back down, ready for you a nice important call afterwards. What a great plan this was. All right, so the first thing that I want to cover is some questions in regards to account services. We obviously released an update in the form of a news post recently. If you haven't seen that, if you ! Account services in the chat, it will send you a link to it. But yeah, there are some questions. People want a little bit more clarity than what we provided. So I'll just get straight into it. First of all, a question asking if our team has any intentions of proactively reporting servers on Discord, providing these kind of services to Discord's trust and safety team.
Yeah, that is exactly what we hope to achieve. There's only like however proactive we can be. Obviously, it's not like what's that movie? Is it Minority Report or something where you're preempting crime being committed? The servers need to exist, unfortunately, before we can report. So it is reactive rather than proactive. But it's not just Discord we want to do. It's like we've got good relationships with all the kind of community platforms, video platforms, streaming platforms. So in addition to hitting Discord servers, we want to be doing the same thing wherever services are being hosted or being advertised, whether it's like advertised on YouTube, advertised on Twitch or Twitter, or Instagram, etc. We will report and flag and then follow up with our contacts and account managers at these places.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. And then the next question is to confirm 100% no rules are changing specifically. For example, buying an Infernal cape was prohibited before. This is just reiteration of that.
Yeah, that's right. So no rule has changed. We've just kind of explained them a bit better. The rules were written, I mean, we kind of alluded to this in the blog, yesterday's blog. The rules were written a long time ago. And I think the very first line for real-world trading is something like, game items must only be exchanged for other items or services within the game. Now, by services there, that used to mean things like Essence running. But obviously, now we've seen an increase in account services, so services out of the game which aren't Essence running or delivering kebab to somebody in the game. It's, you're boosting services. So what we might do is change the rules to be a bit clearer about that line, but otherwise everything we said yesterday is just a bit of an explanation, saying what is or isn't allowed.
Okay, so this one isn't in the list, but I think it's probably worth clarifying or reiterating again, because there's a few questions in the chat. Things, say for example, like paying someone to boost you through Barbarian Assault, paying someone to run Essence for you, paying someone to deliver quest items that you may have forgot, or a food delivery service. Maybe you want a pizza in the middle of Karamja. All those kind of things are okay and within the game rules.
Yeah, those are okay. Now, if the players don't want them to be okay, maybe we can revisit it. But for the time being, that kind of thing in the game, your in-game gold for somebody's in-game item or in-game assistance is okay. You kind of described it really well yesterday. Well, it might have been the day before. We were kind of chatting on Slack. How best can we relay this? And I can't remember what you said. It was like as soon as it's somebody else accessing an account or another account, even though what they're doing is in the game, it's just by their accessing an account. That's the out of game, the real world trading element to it.
Oh yeah,
so that's
I kind of like
distinction.
Yeah, I think I explained it as you're paying in-game gold for someone out of the game to do something on your account in-game, but you're actually paying for the service which they're providing out of the game. Just because the fact that they're logging into your account, which is in-game, doesn't mean that that service they're offering is an in-game service. So yeah, if someone's logging into your account and you're paying them to do that, it's against the rules.
Now, I don't think, maybe people will disagree with me, and I'll read the chat afterwards to see if that's the case. But I think generally it's common sense. If you're the sort of person asking, is this allowed or is that allowed? You've got a pretty good inkling that what you might be doing isn't right. So I think common sense can apply here, especially with yesterday's blog, kind of offering that level. Was it yesterday or the day before? One of those. Especially with this week's blog, offering that extra bit of clarity.
For sure. Okay, so to follow on from that then, can we just make account sharing bannable?
That's a good question. It's a hefty question. So technically it is against the rules. And as Matt Kay said all those years ago, which is always brought up and pointed to, it's not something that's enforced or something that's action taken against. Generally, that rule kind of exists to protect your account login information. Currently, that approach isn't changing. It's generally enforced in instances where there are competitive elements to the game, like Deadman or leagues, or when services are in play, but then that comes more of a real-world trading aspect. So that's our stance, and I can offer my opinion on the question if I go ahead and do that. So caveat: this is Mod Sween's garbage thoughts, not representing Jagex or unofficial policy, but just my way of thinking. I don't think we or any other studio could really enforce it in the way that players would want us to enforce it anyway. I think what we would do would only really harm casual players sharing, rather than the type of people, the type of accounts, the type of activity that you'd want to actually have enforced against. What I mean by this, so in yesterday's blog, we mentioned like rule breaking is easier because new tools are easily accessible, VPNs, virtual machines, that kind of stuff. I don't want to say like, it's the internet's fault, but it is just really easy to cheat now. Yesterday or the day before, I forget which, when we published the blog, I got a DM quite quickly, and it was like, what the F are you going to do if me and my friends share access to a virtual machine and we use that to create and play accounts? I was like, well, we can't really tell that you're using that type of software. So you've almost answered your own question. And I guess another example, and this includes you, Ayiza. When me, you, and Modachi, we were playing Destiny 2 quite a lot, right? And we moved from PlayStation to PC. Modachi, sometimes not the sharpest tool, he messed up recovering his account. And then, because of restrictions that Bungie placed to stop account services and boosting in their game, he couldn't play on his account for something like 90 days. So I guess what I'm saying is that the people who are trying to cheat for things like financial gain, they will always find a way. And then it's your people like Modachi, the casuals, who get burned by the action you're putting in place. Now, lots of people might disagree. They might call me lazy, and they might say, well, it's crap, you're not investing enough, blah, 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 blah. But that's my opinion on it. I think any approach we want to take is going to hit the casuals who do pretty harmless sharing, maybe like sharing to administrate their friends' chats, for example. Then the people who are doing account sharing for like more nefarious purposes, they're always going to find a way to get around it.
All right, that's fair enough. Hopefully that, opinion resonates with some people, maybe provides a little bit more info into your approach on it anyway. Food
for thought. I mean, I welcome the discussion, to be honest.
Okay, I think you do raise some really good points. I don't think there's much more that I can add after what you said, though, so I'll just move on to the next question, which is asking if there will be any action taken against players who previously used or offered services.
Best to word it. We're not like hunting for them. But if they've been directly involved in the kind of real world training elements associated to it, then it is possible. Is that, I guess, what I'm trying to say? We're not actively going out and be like, you've serviced or you've used a service. But if there is that kind of direct association in a normal real world trading approach or tackling real world trading, then it is possible.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I guess it kind of like goes hand in hand with, for example, like Infernal cape services, for example. If someone bought a cape that was a week or 2 weeks ago and we picked up on it tomorrow, yeah, that would be banned, even though it was a few weeks ago and the statement came out. It's always been against the rules. Same with the whole account services or traders always been against the rules. So there is potential, but okay. This question may be also in relation to like the account sharing aspect, but with VPNs and logging in from multiple devices, how can we be sure to not get falsely banned?
Yeah, I think you're right. It kind of does come into play a bit with the account sharing aspects and what I was going on about, my little ramble. A lot of people play using a VPN. A lot of people play using multiple devices, and you don't get falsely banned. So that's going to continue. In terms of how can you be sure? Use a good VPN, not a really public one. But even then, our anti-cheating team do the right checks. But I think, yeah, to that point, this comes back to the question you asked about account sharing. Like, can we make it bannable? Well, it's quite difficult when you've got things like virtual machines, when you've got VPNs and multiple devices. Most people now have dynamic IPs rather than static IPs. Like, if you go through, I used to work in player support before I moved into the community, before I moved into the old school team. IP addresses way back in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and you can see this on the kind of account history aspects, were static. So you wouldn't see much of a change from, assuming you stay with the same IP, ISP as well, you wouldn't see much of a change from like 2002 to 2007. It's like my account history. I'm not looking at anybody else's, I'm looking at my account history. It's, the IP geo was awful back then. It said like I made my account completely different country. But the way they list it is really weird. It's like different cities to a different country. Like city's not even in that country, and associated to the ISP, which is AOL back then. It was static, so you'd have that kind of consistent IP for years. Whereas now, some people's account IP change daily. Now you can request a static one. Some ISPs provide static ones, others don't. I've gone on a ramble. What was the question? VPNs and logging into multiple devices. How do you not get falsely banned? You won't.
Cool. And just to iterate that if you were on that basis, there will be the opportunity to appeal it. And I'm pretty certain, safely saying that if it was as a result of like using a VPN, I think at most times your account gets locked as opposed to just being straight up banned, because it's, it may be detected as it being hijacked. So the team will automatically lock it so that it's secured, and then you can unlock it. And if it was to get banned, you can appeal that ban through the support page. And if it was purely just for the fact of a VPN and not you saying that you used a VPN as a cover up for doing, other illicit activities, then you'll get your account back. So the next question is now the right time to ask for a report screen overhaul in general?
I don't think there's a wrong time to ask. I'm not saying we can just go out and give you an overhaul. And I wonder what needs overhauling. The only thing I can think of are kind of more quality of life tweaks to the actual screen, like so it stays open when you're doing other activities, or the ability to report someone who hasn't spoken recently for certain rules, that kind of thing. Generally, I mean, like, it captures the name, it captures the offence you want to report for. I think maybe what the player wants to get at is, can we see more feedback on our reports, that type of thing. Now, we've answered this in the past. Not really something we can do content side. It becomes quite tricky to do it any other way, but I hope they don't mind me saying this. I know the support team have been quite recently looking at like third-party, like off-the-shelf solutions that other games use, integrate with their game. So you've got that more of responsive reporting system, so players will get feedback on their reports, that type of thing. Now, I'm not promising anything. I think if anything was to be, decided on, our systems are pretty old. It's an old school RuneScape. It would take a long time to integrate and implement. I'm hopeful that one day we'll get that.
Okay, thank you. Me too. Right, next question. Whilst this is a step in a good direction, why did it take 8, maybe even 9 months to clarify this? If buying and selling account services always been against the rules, why does nobody ever get banned for it except for Infernal capers?
So a couple of parts to that question. So in terms of the time it took, I guess maybe it's on me. We could have always come out and said it's against the rules. We don't want you to do it. But the reason why we announced it now is because we've only just kind of got the right processes and the right relationships in place to actually take action. One thing I don't want to do, I don't like doing, is us saying something as a game team or studio that we can't enforce or can't take action against. So obviously we go into a lot of detail, but I think the focus of our approach to tackling account services is going to be using our relationships with all these third parties. Now, it took time to get those relationships in place, to get the right flows in place. We had quite a good chat about Twitter, for example, how we might want to implement it on Twitter, because all it seems like if you want to do on Twitter is you want to just add parody account to your bio and then you get away with anything. So how do we get around that to make sure there aren't any parody services Twitter accounts popping up, that type of thing? And it's taken time to get that in place. So it's taken longer than we wanted to, but the time is right for it.
Okay, thank you. I think that's fair. And then the last question regarding account services is just generally asking if this new clarification will affect content creators that may share their accounts that they potentially use on stream, for example, or to produce content in the YouTube videos.
That's that kind of falls into the middle between, is it casual account sharing like we've already spoken about on this stream, or is it a service being provided? So I think that's the distinction to make. If creators won't be able to use services, but if it's a case of it's a casually shared account, then they're not getting any special treatment. This is the same rule that's going to apply to everybody else who's casually sharing an account. It just so happens that they've got a video and your casual account sharer doesn't. And again, I'm more than open to us revisiting the kind of rules and approaches, but this rule clarification won't change anything there.
Okay. So essentially, if if Joe Blogs can do it, then so can Boaty, for example. The ruling will be the same for everyone, but may potentially in the future need some revisions as we highlight potential issues or pitfalls.
I think that's a good way to summarize it. It's the same thing that's applies to everybody else. Like if me and you, for example, wanted to share an account to PK on, I mean, first of all, that account would get cleaned so fast because we'd be terrible. But
yeah, I was gonna say, good luck.
But if we're not if we're not streaming it, but we can get, it's not being enforced against, where a creator can do the same thing. So there isn't any. I think probably what the question asked is getting at, is there going to be special treatment for content creators? The answer is no, because the account sharing isn't going to be enforced against anybody.
Yeah, I think it's fair, and I think you're right in what they were trying to get at. By saying fair doesn't mean that I think that it's right in terms of my opinions on the whole account sharing aspect. But if anything, I think content creators come under much more scrutiny than the average player would, because then putting themselves in the position that everyone is made very well aware of that fact, that especially when it comes to videos, for example, with multiple different account builds in PvP, that an average player would never have that level of exposure and people wouldn't be as aware of it. But yeah, definitely an interesting one. So we'll just have to keep on top of it, as we said before, and for the pitfalls, we'll hopefully be able to provide further clarification or make changes where needed. I'm conscious of time, and I know that you've got another meeting that you need to head into, but there are some other questions that are tough that I want you to answer before I get the rest of the mod team in, or we can have a fun stream. So if you don't mind, a question coming in from King Kong Boss, asking, what are the current plans for tackling bots, and when can we expect for these plans to be implemented?
So before this, I spoke to the anti-cheating team a little bit just to get some clarity on some answers I wanted to give. Again, if King Kong Boss is looking for, like, is there going to be this massive radical shiny bot nuke? The answer is no. Our approach is more resource, more and better tools. So obviously, for some years, old school was kind of running by with like 1 or 2 anti-cheating mods. We've got 7 anti-cheating mods looking at old school. In terms of improving tools, if I was to use an example that they gave us earlier, things like high scores, like the prevalence of gold farmers and bots on the high scores. So they've been working on a tool which will more easily and accurately prompt the review of things like on players on the high scores, like boss kill count, for example, right? We see that a lot on Reddit. It's going to allow us to be much quicker and more engaged with taking those accounts down and ensuring like the high scores remain a bit more, I don't know, what's the right word? The high scores remain a bit more intact, a bit purer. I want to give like a bit of indication of how many accounts are actually banned as well. So what did they say? 9,062 bans per day on average over like a 30-day period. Mod Twisted recently tweeted that this month alone there is 152,115 bans so far this month. And that number is split according to mass-created bots, which didn't make it into the game, and then actual accounts banned from the game as well. So we've had, I mean, one thing I've loved as well is seeing a lot more transparency and visibility from our anti-cheating team. So on Twitter now, you've got Jagex Twisted, Jagex Tyrant, and Jagex Trident, all pretty active, all taking tip-offs from you, and then in turn relaying information back to everybody, kind of action they're taking against. And all I can do is, again, point to the blog earlier this week. As long as we talk about, like, if there's money to be made by rule breaking, there's going to be a big effort to continue rule breaking, and it becomes an arms race. And it's not just old school as well. And I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses or I'm just talking crap. But other games have issues with bots, particularly active games with a player economy, in which you can actually make money from bots. I play other MMOs, and I read a lot of other subreddits and I read a lot of other games forums, and everybody moans about bots because cheating is lucrative. It's an arms race. So I mentioned earlier, there's not going to be any like big shiny bot nuke button, but there are tools improvements happening behind the scenes. Most of it won't really be player facing. Some of the stuff, some of the secret projects coming up will be slightly more player facing. But what's the question? What are the plans for tackling bots? More resource and better tools. What's the second part of the question? When's it being implemented? I guess from now.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we can do.
Oh, we're back.
We're gone. We're back.
You're going to say one thing we can do?
Continue to be more open about the action we're taking. I think what is, and this kind of comes back to the question you asked about the report screen just a second ago. I mean, one thing that can be really damaging to players' morale is just the notion that you're reporting or seeing all these bots in game, and you're not getting that bit of confirmation from the game team that the action is being taken. So with the likes of Twisted, Tyrant, and Trident actively tweeting a bit more often and being more visible, hopefully that will kind of reinforce that a bit more of a positive loop. I'm not pretending that we're great. The botting situation is amazing, but I think we do a lot more than is evident, and we should probably make a bigger deal out of it, especially when we do get to improve our tools.
Okay, great, thank you. And just to add as well, is like, you see already, as again, not to excuse it because it did take quite a while to get to the point where we made the changes, but this week's game update saw some content changes as well to tackle some areas that are very prevalent with what we'd refer to as, suicide bots, where they don't last very much longer than typically a day or so, but it's enough for them to be able to make money to make it worthwhile. And you see that prevalent throughout the game. Hopefully, small content changes don't impact the average player, but for the, for those that are getting these accounts that do get banned within 24 hours, it will limit them at least. But there's two last questions, and I do want to get them covered. So quickly, don't read on me 2A. Oh, unfortunately, I did. But they ask, may we hear more about your plans to revitalize the wilderness, and have you considered making the wilderness bosses worthy of group content?
I wonder if it's meant to be like, don't tread on me or something. Anyway, the question. So I don't want to flip it right back to you, but I know you're kind of leading the charge on the wilderness stuff recently. So I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, sure. Soon.
Okay.
And by soon I mean as in like in the next few weeks, maybe even as early as next week, we'll be putting out a survey that we want as many of you to fill out as possible, that is going to be asking you a series of questions regarding the wilderness in general, some things in regards to PvP and its mechanics, some things about the Revenant caves and Wilderness Slayer caves as well. That includes like wilderness bosses. And then from there, we're going to be using that to form our blog that will be part of the wilderness changes that will be starting development around about May. So yeah, really, really soon in that sense. In terms of the wilderness bosses being worthy of group content, at the moment, definitely not. But does that mean that they can't be in the future? Maybe you can decide. Maybe there's a question on the survey that says, should they be reworked? And if so, should they be more in line with being a solo or group content? Definitely a lot of options that are available to us, and we really want to basically do as much as we can that you want us to do. So yeah, this survey next few weeks, when you see it, make sure you fill it out. And yeah, lots of changes will be coming. I'm personally really looking forward to it. So yeah, that's the wilderness side of things. Moving on to the last question. This is from Herpadu, and they say, are we ever going to get an idea of what else there is to come this year? It's been months of we can't tell you yet. Can you at least tell us if we are going to have any endgame PVM to look forward to this year?
So I guess I just kind of contradicted myself in my own head then. I was going to say, to the point of we can't tell you yet, hasn't really been the case. It's more of a, we're not ready to tell you yet. But then in terms of the last question, which is, can you tell us if you have any endgame PVM to look forward to? I was going to say, we can't tell you that. But all right, let's explain why we're not actively talking about other stuff that players don't really know about. And I think largely it is just because we want to make sure we get through, say, halfway through this year, and we're able to have delivered the stuff that you do know about. Things like getting the clan system out on time, getting Group Iron Man ready to go on a good kind of time. Again, I hope no one tells me off for saying this, but we are gearing up for like a big cool stream in early summer where we're going to talk about all the cool stuff you can look forward to, projects you don't know about. And hopefully on that same stream, we can offer you a bit more clarity, like maybe release dates or the name of a league or the dates of a league or the theme of a league, that type of thing on that same thing as well. So Herpadu said, are we ever going to get an idea of what else has come? You will eventually get an idea of what else has come, but we're not ready just yet. And I think it's just, I know it's pretty frustrating. You want to know what's coming, what cool stuff is happening. And the people are saying, League, we want raids. Well, maybe we talk about more than one thing on the stream. Maybe it's a really cool stream with lots of different things. But we're trying to learn from mistakes in the past. Remember early August and winter 2017? We don't want to do that. We want more confidence in our projects and release dates and those kind of obstacles and that type of thing as well. Which is why we don't really miss release dates too much anymore, because we've stopped giving you them.
Can't miss them if we don't tell you them. All right. Okay. Well, that was the last question that I needed you to trundle your way through, Sween. So I massively appreciate it. But I'll let you head off now, and you can have the rest of your evening to enjoy some more meetings whilst we have some fun and answer some less serious questions, if that's okay with you.
It is perfect. I need a blanket. I'm cold. I was shivering on that. I don't know if you could I don't know if it sounded like I was trembling, but I was just shivering a little bit.
Well, I just thought you were terrified, but never mind. Now we know the truth. I'm going to stick with my story. Cool. All right, you go get yourself a blanket, and we'll transition over, bring in the other mods, and we can meet the first time appearance on the stream from Mod Zuko as well. Sween, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, new mod.
Thank
Hopefully
you
can join us again for some more fun things.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Okay, and there we go. Just like that, as if it's magic, I'm now joined by the wonderful Mods G, Mod Squid, and Mod Zuko. Hello, everyone.
Bonjour.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
There we go. I thought you don't all say hello at once.
Distinctly one at a time.
Yeah, I like it. And it was in order as well, so I respect that. I'm going to go in order once more and ask you how you're all doing, because it leaves us perfectly on as Zuko being last. I've got some questions to ask you that we like to ask every person on their first time on the stream. So, G, how are you? What have you been up to this week? And what are you currently working on?
I'm good, thank you. Oh, what am I currently working on? I don't think I can say what I'm currently working on.
That's a common trend at the moment, isn't it? We just can't tell you.
Be a bit mysterious. Yeah, well, either that or I like to deliberately keep everybody in the dark. Sense of mystery, you know. And what have I been doing recently? Anybody who follows me on Twitter will know mainly roller skating. Mainly just roller skating.
And a damn good job at it as well. I'm very jealous. All those cool flips and tricks. Very envious. I'm too petrified.
Hey, follow me on
myself. Twitter. Yeah, the most adventurous I got was I rollerbladed around Wick's car park at 11 PM when no one was around. It was hella fun, but not as good as your tricks.
Gnarly dude, bruh.
Okay, Squid. How are you doing? What have you been up to this week, and what are you currently working on?
I'm doing great, thank you. I've been working on Tempoross, the release for that. It's been keeping me very busy. Super excited to see players running around and enjoying it now. It's amazing. It's been a long journey to get here, so it's great to have it finally out in players' hands. And yeah, that's just what I've been up to. Just making sure nothing's broken, checking feedback, and seeing where we go from here.
Well, it seems to have gone down really well overall, so fantastic job to you and the rest of the team. Which leads me on to, last but not least, Mod Zuko. How are you doing? What have you been up to this week? And what are you currently working on?
Oh, 3 questions. How am I doing? I'm doing okay. I'm very nervous. It's my first live stream, but other than needing to pee about 4 times before starting, I'm doing okay. Thank you very much. What have I been up to? Is that the next question?
It is indeed, yep.
Oh, I have been working on Tempoross. I actually just joined Jagex in December, so getting myself up to scratch on how to use all the tools and getting used to everything, working alongside Mod Squid. Got to participate quite a bit with this project, and it's been a blast, honestly. I've loved it to bits. And I don't remember the last question.
It was what are you currently working on?
What am I currently working on? Can't talk about it. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say a word. No, that's it. That's the end of me for this live stream.
No, it's not. I've got more questions for you, Zuko. It's your spotlight moment, okay? So you've already told us when you first joined. So you joined Jagex in December, but when did you start playing Old School?
Old School itself, I started playing in February 2013. So actually, on the release day itself, I was there. It was good fun.
Okay. And did you play RuneScape before that?
I did. I began playing RuneScape in, I think it was 2004. A boy came to my house from school and demanded that I played this game with him. And at the time, I remember that resources were very much more fought over at the time. And so he didn't want to tell me what the game was, lest I take that copper ore that he would otherwise be able to scavenge up. So he just wrote the name runescape.com in my browser whilst making me cover my eyes. And then when I looked back at the game, it was right there in the middle of the screen, welcome to RuneScape. And that is how I found the game.
Wow.
Been with you ever since.
That is a story and a half. Did you end up mining the copper?
I was more of a thieving person actually, but I imagine that I did mine the copper.
Okay. So the age-old question. Actually, I'm going to give you a new one. I've not asked this one before. One word answer: Normie or Iron Man?
Normie.
Okay, fair enough. If you could add anything to old school without a poll, what would it be?
Oh god, that's a question. Without a poll, make the
You've
game
got all the power
a
in the
little
world.
bit more alive. Make it so NPCs have little jobs that they do, and you can follow them around and look at them as they go about, you know, bartending or picking crops in the field, doing stuff like that. You know, give the bankers, let them leave the
Day
place
off.
to go to the toilet every now and then. You know, they've been holding it in for 20 years. I'm barely lasting on 20 minutes.
So wholesome.
That is. You know what? That's
Just-
a brilliant question.
Yeah, I
NPC.
I'm so sorry.
I used to be all about roleplay when I was younger in old school, and yeah, efficiency's great. I'm all about that, but it would be nice to have a reason to slow down every now and then. Go have a drink in the pub with your mates after you've killed Verzik. Go and just follow some NPCs around and have a chat. You know, just little day-to-day
Okay.
things to give a bit of a smile. That's what I'd poll.
I like it.
Not poll, of course. You could go through, yeah.
You just make everyone become a role player, and then every world becomes World 342. I'm living in eternal happiness. That's great. You did a much better job at answering that question than I did in my first stream. So clearly, my nerves were worse than yours. Next question. Yeah. Let's forget about it. I shouldn't have mentioned it. Next question is: if you could remove anything from old school RuneScape without a poll, what would it be?
Ah, the danger. I'm going to say Haters Consentus, the guy in Lumbridge, just because it's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't like him. He doesn't fit Lumbridge at all. He's a bit of a dick, to be honest. And if anything, I would like it if we could put a quest in the game wherein he loses all of his money and becomes a little bit poorer than he currently is, so that he walks around in rags in the future. I want to humble the man.
Okay. You know what? That is way more tame than what I was thinking, because I would have loved a quest where I know that Ed loves if you've done Dragon Slayer 2 anyway, you'll know that he loves killing off characters. So I was thinking, actually, let's just get to a position where we organise a mass mob where everyone robs him and he ends up perishing as a result, and we never have to see him again. Maybe your idea was a little bit better, give him, a redemption arc, maybe. But...
Oh, love talking about redemption arcs. They're the best.
Yeah,
Zuko.
there they are. I guess the clue's in the name. All right, I need to get through some announcements quickly. First of all, thank you, by the way, Zuko, for those answers. Absolutely brilliant. Hopefully there's some more questions that we can get through that you'll be able to input on. But first and foremost, exclamation mark game update. Tempoross has been under the sea for long enough to take on the spirit of the sea in an all-new, fun and sociable way to level your fishing with the newest skill boss. But that's not all. Greg, the rabbit, urgently needs your help in this year's Easter holiday event. You can find all this and more by using exclamation mark game update. Talking about game updates, there's also no game update. So, as the team starts to unwind ahead of the Easter public holidays, there will be no game update next week. So our usual weekly update schedule returns on Wednesday, April the 7th. Next, exclamation mark merch. Why not treat yourself to some new exclusives from Angelscapes, including the Dragon Scimitar keyring, Iban's staff pin, and the Magic and Runecrafting skill cape keyrings. Or show off your love of an old school classic with the Sea Shanty 2 pin. Find these and more in our official merch store with exclamation mark merch. And let's face it, it's probably the only runecrafting cape that many of you will achieve. So get it while stocks last. And then last but not least, just to reiterate once more, exclamation mark account services. Finally, we have released, oh, well, this makes it sound as if like finally I've been waiting for it, but this was the final announcement. We've released a news post for clarity regarding game rules which prohibit account services, which you can find using the command exclamation mark account services. As always, if you have anything you'd like to ask the team or myself, then please at Old School RS with your questions. If we don't get through them this stream, we'll hopefully be able to include them in next. We did take up quite a bit of the stream today talking about account services, so apologies. Let's look at some player-created content. If you want to look at any of these upcoming pieces, UGC, Uniform Golf Charlie, in the chat, and you'll be able to get a link to all of them. Let's roll on the first image, titled Little Mess About, Machamp with 4 God Swords. Open bracket, prototype, close bracket. And this is by PBRD7 from Reddit. I love it.
It's gorgeous.
It's very cool. Very cool.
It's really cool.
I want to see
So well
a
done.
Bulbasaur casting Entangle next. It is really well done. It is. If this is a prototype, then I'm looking forward to like the final version.
So fiddly,
Very
like the
cool.
details. Oh, maze. Yes, give us
I'd love
full
to know how they
screen.
made that.
Yeah, very envious of people's creativity. Moving on, the next one is titled Maxed Melee Chibi, and this is from Lumbridge Designs, also from Reddit. Super cute.
Love it.
Little
I want to see
Funko
this
Pop
as a
with that.
pop toy. Yeah, Funko Pop. Yes,
Yeah.
Make it happen.
somebody
Buy it.
at
Oh, yeah,
Funko.
I
I know.
Let's get it trending on Twitter. All right, next one coming in. This is titled Big Corporeal Beast by Volcaban. We also pulled this from Reddit, but Volcaban's quite active on Twitter as well. Posted a lot of art recently. I think I've seen 3 pieces at least. Fantastic as always. There's a big corporal beast.
Yeah, it's
So much
got
atmosphere.
the atmosphere on that. Yeah. Amazing.
It
Yeah,
actually
it's
kind of
lovely.
like
Love it.
super terrifying, doesn't it? It's like quite literally the corporeal beast could just squish you like a bug. Spooky. We need a mega corporeal beast added into the game now. And the last one, kind of, man, it's called Finished Cooking All the Gnome Foods on Old School RuneScape.
Oh my
And the
God.
reason I'm kind of like, it's because there's like actual real worms in like the wormhole in the
No.
worm batter, which is a little
Did
bit
they
grim.
eat them all though? Did they eat them?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
We need to know.
But this is by Spobby07. But I mean, the accuracy on these is absolutely spot on. They even use like real toad legs in the toad crunches as well. But they look so good. Genuinely look so good in comparison to the in-game versions. Not sure about
The
tasting
drunk
them,
dragon
though, but
looks relatively appetizing.
yeah, I would take that. Same with the what's it called, the chocolate bomb. It's a good dessert.
Hmm
Chat is saying he ate them all. Fair play.
Oh,
He
That's
ate
commitment to the
them all?
cause there.
well,
Good work.
I guess
I want
Each
to
to
know which
their
one
own.
the worst one was out of them, which was the best.
Mm.
we'll have to ask.
Yeah,
and
he needs
find
to
out
do a
in next
ranking
week's
list.
Q&A.
Yeah, all of
Well, that's the
these,
point,
but in a tier list.
Yeah, we'll have to find out for the next Q&A, which won't actually be next week. I just realised we probably should have added that as an announcement. We won't be here, so there won't be a Q&A next week. But we've got some more art to show off, and this is regarding Tempoross. So, G, I will let you take the reins on this.
Oh, it's me. So with the release of Tempoross and then everybody seeming to quite enjoy it online, we thought it might be a good opportunity to come on and talk to you guys about some art, because maybe, maybe you missed me. I don't know, flatter myself. So I actually did make Tempoross, the boss, and I kind of wanted to talk you guys through the process a little bit, because this is actually my first boss design that I have taken from conception all the way through to implementation. Some of you may remember that I did Seracnus in maybe, was it 2019? Yeah. But that wasn't sort of on the same scale. It didn't require, the same number of custom animations, and also it was a sort of collaborative design. So this is the the final piece of art which we're using to show it. I sadly didn't make this, and I saw everybody absolutely pogging out over the animated version that's in the background. So cool. I think that has to be made available somehow. But I wanted to start off with this epic image because I just think it's so cool at summing up the, you know, the vibe that we're really going for. So could we go to the next image, please? Awesome. So first of all, I wanted to show you guys some of the animations because I appreciate that whilst you're playing, you're probably not really focusing on the animations so much. So I thought, hey, why not force it into your eyeballs? So this is the spawn animation, which I'm sure everybody is definitely not looking at because they're very busy grabbing, you know, at least 2 hammers, etc., etc. This was a challenge for me. The whole design was a challenge because obviously he's made of water, and you guys know sort of the limitations that we have when it comes to art, and creating that effect really was quite difficult. But anyway, this is the spawn. Can we click through to the next one? And this is the sort of one of the transition effects. You might recognize this. This is the point where everyone goes, quick, go and fish and, you know, do those bits. I have played the playtest. I really enjoyed it. I've not played it in game yet, but I did play it a lot while we were making it. Yeah, so sort of really pushing our tools to the absolute extreme to try and make this thing do all of these wild movements that I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sure were even possible even when I was designing it. Yeah, I really had to sort of stretch and flex my art muscles here. Okay, next image, please. Oh yeah, so this is the enraged when you know you've lost. Sorry, GG, you tried your best.
My
That's so
favourite.
cool.
I
Yeah,
love
so-
it so much.
The Angie boy.
He is so angry.
Tempos, mad, guru. Yeah, so if we could go to the next image. All right, so this is sort of taking you guys right back to the beginning of the process. So the way that we came up with this design was actually a bit of a collaborative effort between me and Mod Acorn. And we were trying to ideate an idea for a project, something else entirely. But we had this idea that, you know, there could be some kind of element of like fishing, PVM, you know, that kind of thing. So the idea that we had originally was some kind of merman situation, but I got this sort of intrusive thought into my head of, how about you fish the boss, you know? Like, how about the fishing boss is like, you have to try and fish the fish out of the boss. So I came up with this drawing. This is the initial drawing, which was just for ideation, which is something that we do to come up with ideas for new projects. And it sort of went into a folder with a lot of different ideas until somebody saw it. I'm not sure who saw it, but clearly maybe somebody important saw it, and they said, that looks really cool, we should do that. And that was just based off of this image. So that's sort of how the design for, you know, the project actually got kicked off the ground. So this was my original drawing. And then if we go to the next image, this was my sort of proof of concept 3D sketch. This is obviously nothing like how the boss looks in the game, but I thought it would be a fun exercise to visualize it in, you know, some really high resolution 3D software, as sort of an exercise for then reducing the poly count down. So yeah, this was one of the original concepts. I ended up sort of going from here and creating the boss that you now see in the game. I really like it. I'm really proud of it. I hope that maybe the next time you guys play it, you might stop and have a little look at the animations and maybe even tweet me, tell me what you think. But yeah, just a little bit of art for your art glands this fine Thursday evening. Thanks for having me.
That is awesome. You're not going anywhere, by the way. You got to stay for the rest of the Q&A, so don't even think about leaving.
Snap.
I really appreciate, personally anyway, going through all of the the motions and you showing it us. I think it's really cool. And I know that to begin with, there was a lot of people when we first pitched the blog that were unhappy with the Tempoross design, and it should have been like this crazy, elaborate sea spirit of danger and look like a serpent crossed with the Kraken crossed with something else. And you know, actually, for the amount of times that people turn around and say that a lot of designs aren't old school, I think it being in game now and people playing it and having a go at it, all I keep seeing is people saying this feels so old school. It feels so good, and so many compliments. So great job all round to everyone that was involved in that.
Blessed.
Talking about being involved in it, rather than an art perspective, from a dev's perspective, for both Squid and Zuko, could you maybe like take us through your feelings whilst working on the project? What were your favourite parts? Maybe your initial reactions when it went live? Maybe your least favourite parts? I know that this is something that was originally pitched back in, I think it was like August 2020, I believe. Was it even 2019? Yeah, it was. It would have been August 2019. I can't even remember. Basically, it was blogged once and then decided to be pulled and reblogged again. Squid, how was that for you at that time?
Yeah, that was interesting because I had only recently joined Jagex at that point. So I joined Jagex and they were like, "Yeah, make a fishing skill boss," and I was given that concept art that G had just shown. I was like, okay. So it was like trying to come up with mechanics and things that work around that elemental idea and the fish being inside the boss, which I think is so cool. But yeah, the first blog, we kind of didn't really do justice to talking about the mechanics in enough detail, and I think a lot of the initial reactions were, "Oh, this sounds really basic. There isn't really a lot going on. It's similar to existing content." So yeah, we just decided to go back and revisit the mechanics and then talk about it in a bit more detail, which I think was better received the next time.
Yeah, I think it made a massive difference.
Yeah, as for the actual dev side of it, I mean, one of the things I really wanted to do with this was try and give the players choice in how they approach the content and how their individual moment-to-moment choices throughout. So things like how you deal with the fires, how you deal with loading, how you deal with the wave, all these things that come down to allowing yourself to be a bit more efficient or go for more points, go for more XP, and then see the strategies that unfold. So that's something that's been really cool since it's been released, seeing people try and figure out the optimum amount of fish to get, the timings, and how to manage their inventory and things like that. That's really cool. So I think that has gone pretty well. And I mean, it took a long while to develop as well, just because obviously I was learning RuneScript at the time as well and all the tech. So that was a fun. There's some funky logic in there, and particularly with the lightning attacks, that was interesting to figure out. But yeah, we got there.
This is your first project, Squid?
Yeah, this is my first proper project here.
There
I think
you go,
other than
Look
this,
at that.
I've done some clue scroll work with like the interface of clue scroll by moving the close button a little bit.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. And Zuko, from your perspective, obviously coming into it, I believe by the time you joined, we were just in the process of getting ready to, blog and poll it again. At that point, the design's already kind of like solidified. Some of the dev work has already been done from previously. What was it like fitting into a project that was already in motion?
It was surprisingly lovely. So we work in little scrum teams at Jagex, and my team is the unknown team. And I've been working very closely with Mod Squid and Mod Wolfie, who does QA, and they've both been wonderfully welcoming and made the whole process absolutely lovely. It was very easy to just get right in the flow of it and get started actually contributing to it. Just very supportive, lovely people. I'm really glad that this was my first project in the company.
You made me choke up over here, Zuko. That was so lovely, and I don't want it to come across as sarcasm and take away from that, because no, genuinely, that was really, really nice to hear. I'm glad that it was such a good experience for you, at least. Wow, there you go. So everyone's enjoying it. Everyone enjoyed developing it. Everyone enjoyed designing it. Good vibes all round. Let's get into some chat questions, shall we? I did ask if we had permission to extend the stream slightly, so hopefully those of you that have joined me in answering some questions are okay to stay until 6:15 so that we can get through a few of them. So we've got 20 minutes at least to smash out some of the chat questions. So one thing that I wanted to cover off, just because I think it's important, and sorry, I know we said we'll answer some chat questions, but some of them relate to chat questions, is there's been feedback coming in from players since the release. I know it's really early days still. It's just day afterwards. But do we have any plans to kind of like make any changes based on feedback? And if we do, is there anything that we can say that might be changed very soon and things that we might be looking at in the very near future?
Yeah, definitely. We're absolutely monitoring feedback, and we expected there to be some changes, but we're watching, seeing how it goes. The rewards is obviously a hot topic at the moment. We do agree that there's some room there to improve them and make them feel a little bit better, because it doesn't feel great when you spend one of your reward permits to get 20 steel nails. We agree. So we're definitely looking into those things, and I'm sure Zuko can speak a little bit more about that in a sec. But as for XP, that's something we're going to monitor over the next couple of weeks and just see how things level out once people figure out strategies and let things level out a bit, and then we'll have more data to make a more informed decision on how we want to make those adjustments. But all the feedback you guys have been given has been fantastic, and we're reading it all.
Yeah, specifically within regards to the rewards, that's my bad. Sorry about that, guys. I have been very unkind with the release rewards. I'm mostly happy that we did it a little bit conservatively, because it's definitely a lot easier to further reward people than it is to take away what they're already used to. And I think there's a little bit of content in the game where that actually does happen already. But that being said, yeah, pretty soon you should expect better rewards from Tempoross. I've been working on that today, and I appreciate the feedback from the community with regards to making it a bit less crap, really. But yeah, it's just been really lovely seeing everyone engage with the content, and really want to see the good rewards come from it.
Good. I think it's really you raise a really good point there, Zuko, is that it is definitely easier to buff something than it is to nerf something. And we've been criticized in the past for releasing content that was way overtuned, that we'd need to immediately revisit and hotfix out loot drops and such, because they were considered quote unquote broken. So a little bit of an alternate approach. If you can bear with us for a few days whilst we just make sure that we got a feel for it, that the content's working as it is, that you still get rewards, that we can then look to adjust. And I'll be a little bit nicer and hopefully tell you some more information in terms of when. I think we're planning on hotfixing the drop table tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So you should get better loot as of tomorrow. We have obviously plans to look at the XP, but that's going to be in the next couple of weeks. There are some comments regarding the encounter itself being less rewarding when it's completed within the first phase. So if you do like one cycle and defeat Tempoross within that, that's something that we want to look into, but it's something we want to lean on data more for than just jumping in and making a change. So probably look at that alongside XP. I think I got that one right, Squid, Zuko?
Yeah, like the one phase thing, it was honestly never intended to be one phased. So yeah, the rates you're seeing when you one phase it aren't as good, and that's just because it was never designed to do that. There's a bit of like lenient scaling in larger groups, which when you have a lot of high level players isn't quite leveling out as intended. So yeah, we're looking at ways to approach that, whether we give you some points, whether we make it impossible to one phase, we don't know yet, but we're monitoring how it goes.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. The other one was, oh bugger, I've lost my train of thought now. Crashing on mobile. So some people reported that it's crashing when you go into Tempoross with a big group. It crashes. We found out that it's exclusive to iOS, players using iPhone. So we're going to be investigating that. Hopefully have a fix for that as well. Ultimate Ironman, the cap is currently set to 10 loot opportunities before you have to fish them up and then go carry on. We're going to be increasing that cap. I think we just decided to just remove it entirely, put it to 8,000 like it is for everyone else.
Yeah.
Good to be on the side of caution to begin with, at least. Similar situation, I think Zuko is like, I'm just going to credit you for it, is that I'd much rather us be in a position where we're making something better than having to be like, oh, we've got to suddenly get rid of everything from the UIM.
Oh yeah, it was a very last minute decision. It was something one of the other JMods brought up last week, and I was like, oh, infinite fish storage. I don't know anything about Ultimate Iron Man. That could be, that could be massive. So made the decision, right? Let's just throw in the reward cap and see who complains about it. And it's been everyone. So good news. We're gonna get rid of it, or at least make it a lot less cumbersome.
It's better
How
to be
did you
safe
make
than
that
sorry.
sound so wholesome again? The good news is you all think the same thing. So
Well,
Thank you.
it helps
Feedback.
validate. Yeah, it helps validate change at least. And then I think the last one is in regards to the Tome of Water. There are some extra poll questions that we want to include in our next poll that's coming up to look at some minor changes to that, maybe some increase in like damage. Lost my voice. 1 sec. I spoke way too much, so maybe some like extra damage. Maybe I think one of the things that we missed out was actually increasing the effectiveness of curse spells. So at the moment, the book only increases the accuracy of them. We just forgot to add that poll question in. By we, I mean I. So sorry. So yeah, when our next poll comes up, we'll probably add in a few questions there. Okay, now quick questions from chat. Toxic Asset says, Shooting Stars and Tempoross have been great updates as skilling stuff goes. Please continue down this path for any future skilling updates and keep introducing item syncs into the game. But more importantly, +1 for needing a huge PVM update as one of the next big updates. Oh, well, not much of a question, more of just saying that they've been good. And I guess, okay, we can carry on doing skilling updates like this.
I'm all
it's
for
been
that.
Lovely. Shout outs to Sepulchre
Nice.
as well. It's just been amazing, the skilling updates in the last year or so. Really great stuff.
Yeah, I like the balance between like the different methods that you can use now. There's a lot of diversity in skilling, and I think there's a lot more that can be done without and fully messing up metas, I guess, in terms of XP rates. Alex and Theo says, I appreciate the changes to Master Farmers and Pharoh Sceptre. Keep it up. Okay.
Alrighty.
We will.
I love these questions.
JS Butts asks, can we potentially get the fish rewards to scale better with your fishing level? Kind of covered that already.
Yeah, actually, good question. Depends what they really mean by scale with fishing level. Currently it does, but there's no difference, for example, between levels 92 and 99. You will always receive the same flat reward the moment that you've upgraded to a certain tier of reward that you're eligible to receive. That's currently how that works. If people want to make a suggestion for having it scale more linearly than that rather than in those big chunks, then it's worth having a chat about.
I think one thing we're looking at is just reducing the low end of fish you get. So the sort of minimum fish you get for your level is increased. Like you cut off some of those lower level fish, so it feels a bit more consistent with the better fish.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
You don't really want macro at level 92, do you?
Yeah.
Well, the changes that you made to the drop table seemed really good today, so I think players will be happy with that. And for those of you that maybe missed what we spoke about earlier when we said about the changes, we will be putting all the information into the update news post that went out with yesterday's game update. So you'll be able to check that, and we'll post that on socials when it's been updated. So keep an eye out on that. Voldo33 asks, are crystal harpoon fish working as intended? You can't cook them, and they don't give extra points when shooting. So you actually lose 55 points per fish for only 10 more experience. They honestly seem worse than normal harpoon fish while burning crystal harpoon charges at the same time.
Yeah, okay, so there's a bit of a perception thing here, because the crystal harpoon was never intended to be good for points. It was intended to be the best XP at the sacrifice of points. The thing is, in Tempoross, the best way to get XP is to load fish. So you want to load as many fish as possible, which means not spending time cooking. So the crystal harpoon fish cannot be cooked because you shouldn't be cooking them anyway if you want XP. We don't want to blur like the use cases of harpoons, because right now we've got quite a strong identity for each type of harpoon, and we want those choices to be meaningful and have an identity. So if you let them be fished, let them be cooked, sorry, are people just going to go, oh, I cooked my fish and wasted my charges because the XP is even worse now? Because the Infernal harpoon will still be better because you fish them already cooked. So it's 45 less points per fish. Bear in mind you're not spending time cooking though, and it's 20 more XP per fish you load. So it works out to be like 6 to 7% more XP per hour, which isn't that bad. But again, as we said with XP, it's something we're going to monitor, and we're going to be keeping an eye on those things.
Yeah, 6 to 7% is generally a pretty, chunky reward in the late game, and I think it's quite well balanced. I think at this stage, I think people should probably be opting for the Infernal harpoon, if anything, to get their rewards. But later on, whether you're grinding for 99 or if you're one of the players that likes to go for 200 mil, the crystal harpoon is going to be really useful for that grind, and I'd strongly suggest it. It definitely helps with the rates that you're receiving.
Cool, thank you. X Trepula X says the March 24th news article, Fishing Skill Boss and Easter event, very specific, states that the Tome of Water can be exchanged for 50 soaked pages. I traded in my tome into the retired sailor and only received 25 soaked pages.
My bad.
Yeah, I think there was a mistake in the blog.
Yeah, it was a decision of mine actually. At one point, 50 seemed like quite a lot for the other rates that we had going, based on how I'm currently handing out soaked pages at various points of the grind. So I reduced it to 25 to be a bit conservative on release. I've been thinking the amount you should receive probably go up a little bit, but we're not really at that decision point yet. It's not really the right time to make that call. But if if they go tanking down and they're not worth anything, then I should probably give you a few more of them for sure.
Okay. I think for what it's worth, this question must have been asked within a few minutes of the update post going out, because we did actually change that text quite soon after it went live. So unfortunately, they managed to get the tome in that time, and also got the less pages than they were anticipating. Apologies for that, Trapula. Did not buy WinRAR. Okay. Can we get a little clarification on the Master Farmers part of the update? I just tried out the new drops for an hour with 99 thieving and 74 farming, and it felt meh. Are the seeds scaled based on seed level or actual usefulness?
Well, I asked Arcane about this because I don't know myself, but so he said at 85 farming, it's around 10% better than before. For Snapdragons, Torstals, and Ranas, around 71, it should be the same as before, but below 71, it gets worse than before. Is the information I have for you.
Cool. When I asked him as well about it for a separate question that was asked during the feedback process, I believe the scaling does work off your farming level and the level of the seed as opposed to their usefulness, I think it is. Yeah, so the higher farming level, the better chance you have of the higher level seeds. But he may have done some crazy calculations to include like Ranars and Snapdragon seeds in there just to make the useful ones be included. But this typically is something that we don't give information on like straight away. But in the past, we have gave you the actual breakdown of what levels you can expect to get, which seeds at which rate and stuff. Similar to I think Mod Kieran, it took him a few years to bring out the barrows rates, for example, for uniques and runes and stuff. So it's something that we will share with you in time. It just comes down to when that time is right, and I'm not going to force Arcane into giving it out. It can, when he feels like it's the right time, and then we will. We just want to obviously be careful that we don't give out information that could then, give a sweet spot, at which point is it good to create a suicide bot farm and still profit from it, So we do want to, tread on the edge of caution with it, but yeah, hopefully that at least gives you a bit more info. Thank you for that, Squid. Obvious Hornet 2294, why wasn't the standard binds accuracy buff to the Tome of Water polled?
I think it was. Hang on, I have the poll question.
It was. I have it.
I'm pretty
open
sure
on my
it was
monitor right now.
It was in the question of should we add a Tome of Water which will increase the accuracy of standard weakening and binding spells. So it was in
As
like
well as curse.
the group. Well, it should have been.
Yeah. Oh no, the accuracy part of the curse spells was in the blog too. I actually wrote the question. I put it together. I decided to bundle it all in, and it was a case of if players didn't want it all bundled in, then we'll take it out. And well, no one really seemed to care at the time, so we just kept it in, and it passed. And that's why. So it was polled. It's literally written in the poll question. And we will be looking to poll some extra things as well. So sorry if you didn't agree with it at the time. Or now even. Sorry. Dr. Spartying XB1 asks if Rada's Blessing 4 works in Tempoross.
It doesn't. Yeah. Sorry, Zuko, do you want to take that?
It's about everything. No,
I was just going to expand and say, so the thing about Rada's Blessing is that usually its effect won't give you more XP, but because in Tempoross your XP comes from loading fish, it would be giving you more XP, and it's potentially quite a lot. So we can consider it, and based on how the XP rates level out, it's potential to add, but there's also potential to make it do something else within Tempoross, similar to how the Crystal Harpoon does something else. So, but right now, no, it doesn't work.
We've had a couple of chats about that as well internally. There's a few items that might be quite useful to bring into the instance. Like, I think probably one of my favorite things is in the Sepulchre. You're just decked out in full graceful, and you've got like a bunch of trinkets that you're carrying around to make everything a little bit better, and that's always pretty good. So yeah, things like the Desert Amulet and the Rada's Blessing, it'd be kind of nice just to give a tiny little reason to carry them into the instance.
Thank you. Sorry, I was typing to production to let them know we're going to move on to some chat questions because I always forget to do them, and I want to get some of them in today. So this one comes in from Mushy, and they ask if we can take this up with the team. Absolutely. Here we go. Let's go for it. Could the Tempoross UI on the top left be moved further up and left? It's quite in the way on the fixed client. Thanks.
Yeah, we're looking into this. We think there is a bit of room we can move it up. The fixed client has its own challenges because it takes up a lot of room to the right as well with the little compass icon, but we believe we can definitely move it up a bit.
Cool, thank you. The Night Beyond asks if we have any plans towards runecrafting training in the future besides the golems.
I don't think so. Nothing
Kinda
officially
do,
to
kinda
announce at the
don't.
moment, do we?
We said in one of the gazettes last year, I believe, where we put the section regarding ideation projects, that there was the Guardians of Gielinor, which would be a runecrafting like mini game, so to speak, almost kind of like mini game boss type thing, group activity. But that's about as far as we are. It hasn't developed any further than that. So no solid plans, but there are some kind of like early designs that are floating around that the team have worked on. So cool. No Regrets asks if we currently have dragons up to rune, then when will we be getting dragons, barrows dragons, and crystal dragons? And this is why we don't ask Twitch chat questions.
A dragon.
Crystal Dragon
So
Worm.
we have the body in RS3 from, I think that's Elemental Workshop 3. So I wouldn't be surprised. Should probably have a dragon at some point.
Okay, at some point, maybe. Androka
I do now want to make a
Flocker.
Crystal Dragon.
Cool.
Sorry.
Send it. No,
My
I'd
head's
be cool
going
with
in
that.
Crystal Dragon.
It would look cool.
Do
It'd be
it.
interesting to see the designs for it at least. And a Barrows dragon, like which Barrow set would it wear? Anyway, we digress.
Oh,
We've got
dude,
1
for
minute left.
Dragon, could it just be a dragon riding a dragon? Like,
Be careful of the way
Double
that
stab.
one's put in context-wise.
the double decker.
I'm so childish, so I'm just going to quickly answer the next question, which is from Androka Flocka, who's asking, can we get access to that sweet animated Tempoross background?
Yeah, can we?
Surely we have to give that out. It's so good. I don't know.
I'm sure we
We'll
have
see.
like a
I'll
we have
ask
an account
someone.
that we have a load of backgrounds on, right? That we can probably upload it into that place and share it.
Mm.
Dude, it is so freaking beautiful. I want like a digital photo frame with the animated version of that, and I'll put it like, I don't even care. I'll replace the picture of my parents I've got up on the mantle with that. It's so gorgeous. Love it.
All right. I will go for the last question from chat, which is number 7, and this is from Royal Scream, although I saw it was quite a popular question at the time of showing it off. Enrage as metamorph for the pet? Question mark.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh,
Ah.
word made squid.
that would be cool. How would you get
you
that?
did tease about challenge mode in one of the blogs.
Oh
remember
yes,
we said
yeah, the challenge mode. There you go. If we can get a challenge mode, if enough people want a challenge mode, then yeah, maybe it can be a metamorph from that.
Please. And he's got the Angie
Sure.
face as well. Yeah, I like that.
that's one of the conditions.
Angie
It has
boy.
to have that Angie face, otherwise no can do.
Tempor tantrum.
There you go.
All right, well, I'm going to scroll back up on my little script here and go through some announcements. That was the last question we got time for today. Just to wrap things up, exclamation mark game update. We've just been talking about it for the last half an hour or so, a little bit longer in fact. But Tempoross has been under the sea for long enough. Take on the spirit of the sea in an all-new, fun and sociable way to level your fishing with the newest skill boss. But that's not all. Greg, the rabbit, urgently needs your help in this year's Easter holiday event. You can find all this and more by using exclamation mark game update. Talking about game updates, there is also no game update. As we start to unwind ahead of the Easter public bank holidays, there'll be no game update next week, so our usual weekly update schedule returns on Wednesday, April the 7th, which also means that there's going to be no Q&A next week either. So unfortunately, you'll have to tune into someone else's live stream around at this time. Exclamation mark merch. Why not treat yourself to some new exclusives from Angelscapes, including the Dragon Scimitar keyring, Iban's staff pin, and the Magic and Runecrafting Skill Cape keyrings, or show off your love on old school of an old school classic with the Sea Shanty 2 pin. Find these and more in our official merch store with exclamation mark merch. And then lastly, exclamation mark account services. We released a news post for clarity regarding game rules which prohibit account services, which you can find using the command exclamation mark account services. We also had Mod Sween on to answer some questions in regards to the blog itself. So if you missed that, check it out on YouTube when it's uploaded, or rewind and go find it in one of the VODs. That's it from all of us here in the old school team. I just want to say once again, thank you so much to Mods G, Squid and Zuko for your wonderful work on Tempoross, the fishing skill boss, as well as answering the questions. Massive thank you to the rest of the team involved as well. I know Mod Wolfie gets a shout out in that. And to Mod Spear and Druid for helping with production, Mod Sween for answering all of the difficult questions so that I didn't have to, and of course, all of those of you watching at home for being so wonderful and lovely. I hope you have a great evening, enjoy the rest of your week, happy scaping, and good luck getting Tiny Temper.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.